Back, everybody. Senator Bob Corker says he has a funding solution for the Highway Trust Fund. The Tennessee Republican is teaming up with Democratic Senator Chris Murphy to propose raising the gas tax. Senator Corker joins us from Capitol Hill this morning. And, Senator, it's great to see you. Thank you for being here.
Good morning, Becky. Good to be with you.
So it's not very often these days in Washington that you see people teaming up from both sides of the aisle. The problem is the Highway Trust Fund is going to run out of money come July or August for some of those road and bridge projects if we don't get more funding back into it?
That's correct.
So your proposal is what?
So, Becky, we haven't raised the gas tax since 1993, and so its purchasing power today is 63% of what it was. Every so often, we go through this charade that we're going through this month where we'll steal money from future generations to make it whole. A trust fund like this is set up so people can enter multi-year contracts, so the states can make long-term plans. The contractors who are building the roads can buy equipment and know that the future is solid and that we have a long-term plan. That's what a trust fund is for. So Chris Murphy, a Democrat, has agreed that we ought to raise the gas tax to fund the trust fund appropriately, but lower other taxes at exactly the same level. Now, let me say that one more time. All people are hearing is a gas tax rise. What they haven't heard is the other offsetting component, lowering other taxes the equivalent amount. It would seem to me that those people who want to see economic growth in our country and know that roads and bridges are going to be built and repaired would celebrate this. It would seem to me that people who care about smaller government would care about this, because what happens every year, Becky, we saw it last week on the veterans vote. Even the people who say they're the most conservative people in the world, when it comes to a popular issue, they'll throw our kids under the bus. Well, transportation is the same. And so this week, yesterday, the Finance Committee unveiled a proposal to spend $9 billion to make our trust fund whole, if you will, by, again, borrowing money from future generations to pay back. So what would happen here is you'd have a trust fund that is whole, but the other priorities, government is, Congress here is more likely to cut other programs to get in line more so than they would transportation. So this is a win for small government. It's a win for transportation. It's a win for our country. It set priorities in the right place, and candidly, I've had numbers of people on both sides of the aisle quietly this week saying, look, this is the right solution. So, you know, I know that Congress is going to do the non-courageous thing over the next 30 days. It's really disappointing to see. It's going to happen, I know it. But I hope that over the course of the next several months, people will come together and understand the logic of going ahead and dealing with the trust fund, making plans for our country, and by the way, getting Congress to cut other things in government that are much less priority.
Well, Senator, let me ask you, I understand the need for transportation, for making sure the infrastructure, roads and bridges are beefed up. I do get that. My question is, what taxes would be offset by the higher tax for gas?
Yeah, one of the things that would be really easily done would be to do some of the pro-growth extenders that, again, we just extend those every year. This year, as a matter of fact, things like accelerated depreciation, research and development. We still haven't enacted those, I think you know, for the beginning of the year. So again, you don't get the kind of economic growth that you could otherwise get if companies knew those things were actually going to be in place. Again, it's another show.
You're not tying those together in this bill.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
So,
and by the way, this is a proposal. What we laid out the other day was exact offsets for this in the areas that I just laid out. But candidly, I'm open to other kinds of things. Look, a marginal cut for everyone. But
I think
again,
critics would say you are taking a tax that consumers pay and raising that tax in turn for companies getting an offset, and that might be where the criticism steps in. But you say you're willing to talk?
Becky, I'm all for looking at marginal reductions for everyone that would create economic growth. But again, to have a trust fund, this is the 5th time since 2008 where we get to this point where state governments, local governments, people all across the country don't know if the program's going to be extended. They're pretty sure that Congress will throw kids under the bus to pay for this. They're pretty sure. but they still don't enter into those longer-term contracts that are better for our country. So again, well, let's talk about this. Anybody would have to say the current situation is totally untenable. It's ridiculous for a nation of our greatness to be handling transportation and road funding and bridges the way that we are. Why not pay for it as we go? Let me just say, in Tennessee, that's what we do. We have zero road debt.
Well, Larry Summers has made that proposal, too. He has said when you're looking at interest rates as low as they are right now, these historic lows, why wouldn't you take this time to beef up as much infrastructure as you can and get it at lower interest rates?
But the whole argument, Senator, is about whether it should be a state thing or a national thing.
Well, look, Joe, I'm okay with that debate. Look, if people want to devolve some of this back to the state, let's just quit doing what we're doing. We've been doing this, seems like almost every summer since 2008. It's ridiculous. It's unsophisticated and sophomoric. And why don't we just deal with this issue? Again, what you're going to see happen over the next 30 days, it was announced yesterday by the majority in the Finance Committee. They're going to take $9 billion out of the general fund to put it into the trust fund. Only $3 million, $3 million, not billion, will be paid back over that same period of time, the next 6 months. So we're just stealing from our kids to keep us from going ahead and making what I don't even consider to be tough decisions to solve our transportation problem. So let's move on.
Yeah. Other people think we ought to bring back all that repatriated money and do it with that, and then the other side of that says that you shouldn't be able to dictate where someone's hard-earned money goes when it comes back. You shouldn't be able to ask for it to go right into infrastructure.
Yeah, I would think, Joe, we'd want to use that candidly to lower other deficits. And by the way, the repatriation thing is really a way for people to figure out how to solve this problem without really making any tough. That's right. That's right.
It seems like the one thing you got going in the early 20th century, government was 7% of GDP, and we built roads with that 7% somehow. Now we got 25% of GDP, and we got no money for roads. So somewhere along the line, we started paying for stuff that we didn't used to pay for, and I don't know what it is, but yeah. But we do need roads. We don't need bridges falling down. That's for sure. London bridges, especially.
That's right.
Senator, thank you so much for joining us today. Always great talking to you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, when we come back.